Good morning, and thank you for joining me at Leveling Up 2020. I'm excited to join you virtually to speak about how we are building the foundation for an inclusive and diverse community of gamers at the National Esports Association. Esports is a great equalizer. Everyone is welcome. Esports presents an opportunity for a child with cerebral palsy to play alongside a star football player, or for a child on the autism spectrum to be part of a community, perhaps having friends for the first time as they play together towards the same goal. For more than a decade, I've had a front row seat watching the magic of esports unfurl and evolve. Sure, 11 years ago, business colleagues and parents of my students all questioned me about the power of gaming, using video games to advance education and creating a community through esports. You know what? They don't ask anymore because they've seen the success with their own eyes. When I graduated from college, my sister printed out and framed for me a lesson I learned from, of all things, a Nike ad. It goes like this. All of your life you are told the things you cannot do. All of your life they will say you're not good enough, or strong enough, or talented enough. They will say you're the wrong height, or the wrong weight, or the wrong type to play this, or to be this, or to achieve this. They will tell you no 1,000 times until the no's become meaningless. All of your life they will tell you no quite firmly and very quickly, and you will tell them yes. No is not an answer. I live by that every day. You can ask anyone in my organization. We are living in a world full of no's. We must find a way to say yes. Back in April, right after the world shut down due to COVID, we all encountered a lot of no's. No, you can't go to school. No, you can't go to a Broadway show. No, your kids can't even go on an egg hunt. I never thought that the cancellation of an Easter egg hunt would lead me to create the first virtual global egg hunt in Minecraft. It was all because we were not going to take no for an answer. My team was given less than 10 days to build a Minecraft world and code the game. For those of you who don't know the video game Minecraft, it is a virtual sandbox where you can build anything you want out of building blocks. It encompasses geography, geometry, and a team approach. We wanted everyone to play, for all to enjoy our virtual egg hunt, and to be totally inclusive. To do so, we had to overcome technological challenges, as there are many different versions and platforms and systems on which to play Minecraft. We worked to find a solution, and we were able to code the game for cross-platform play, which had never been done before. Even my colleagues at Microsoft, who owns Minecraft, asked me, how the heck did you do that? Our Minecraft cross-platform game was accessed across the globe, and we even got a shout out from Stephen Colbert.
They're holding a virtual Easter egg hunt on Minecraft.
And Forbes. Working with the National Esports Association, I always say I have the coolest job on the planet Earth. I get to help take no's and turn them into yeses, and create a world that is inclusive, diverse, and equal by removing barriers. The truth about esports is you can remain hidden behind a character and become the person you thrive to be. You never know who is behind a character. You only judge them on their gameplay, not their outward appearance or their athletic build. And from the game, we develop important life skills like strategy, sportsmanship, accuracy, skill, ingenuity, adaptability, and creativity. And while I'm learning, my foes or teammates are judging me on these skills alone, all without knowing my gender, build, ethnic origin, socioeconomic status, physical limitations, or nationality.
My name is Grover.
Sean. My name is Ian.
I'm Taylor.
My name is Owen, and I am 9.5 years old.
So Owen was born with a rare genetic disorder called Escobar syndrome.
He's had 33 surgeries to date.
I love video games, my friends, my family, and again, video games.
It's his way of interacting with his friends when he can't physically otherwise do it.
What I like about the adaptive controller is now everyone can play. You can just say, all right, that's that button, that's that button, that's that button. Perfect.
One of the biggest fears early on is, how will Owen be viewed by the other kids? He's not different when he plays.
No matter how your body is or how fast you are, you can play. It's a really good thing to have in this world.
When I first started running esports enrichment programs, I would have parents call and ask me about enrolling their daughters. I would explain that she might be the only female in the room besides myself, but that I wanted her to come, and I would ensure that she had an amazing time. The only way to truly create an environment that is diverse and inclusive is to be a good role model, one who truly knows how to make you feel included. And I'm happy to say that I no longer have to have that conversation with any parent, as our programs are now 50-50 boys and girls. I created a nurturing environment where all felt welcome. I didn't just bring her into the room, but I ensured she was included in all aspects of the program. If we do not create environments where we all feel welcome and appreciated, no movement is strong enough to invoke permanent change. At the National Esports Association, we want our program to be accessible to all. We do not believe in the pay-to-play model. Creating the infrastructure for play for all is imperative in order to have a truly diverse and inclusive platform. I work with students around the globe on our various programs. COVID has forced us all to rethink the way we learn, work, and interact. Students, parents, and educators are struggling to figure out how we can overcome this online learning gap. We hear about it every day. The online learning is not sustainable, and virtual education is failing our youth.
And yes, this is really the reality out there in way too many universities around the world. Students that are bored, disengaged, and sometimes not even sure why they're learning about a topic in the first place. So we started looking around for new innovative teaching methods, but what we found was quite disappointing. We saw that books were being turned into ebooks, blackboards were being turned into YouTube videos, and lecture hall monologues were being turned into MOOCs, massive open online courses. And if you think about it, all we're really doing here is taking the same content and the same format and bringing it out to more students. Which is great, don't get me wrong, that is really great, but the teaching method is still more or less the same. No real innovation there. So we started looking elsewhere, and what we found was that flight simulators had been proven over and over again to be far more effective when used in combination with real in-flight training to train the pilots. And so we thought to ourselves, why not just apply that to science? Why not build a virtual laboratory simulator? Well, we did it. We basically set out to create a fully simulated one-to-one virtual reality laboratory simulator where the students could perform experiments with mathematical equations that would simulate what would happen in a real-world lab. But not just simple simulations, we would also create advanced simulations with top universities like MIT to bring out cutting-edge cancer research to these students. But we didn't stop there because we had seen just how important meaning is for the students' engagement in the class. So we brought in game designers to create fun and engaging stories. For instance, here, in this case, where the students have to solve a mysterious CSI murder case using their core science skills.
One way virtual education can engage our youth is through esports. Esports can help bridge this learning gap and help engage our youth in an impactful way that stimulates learning.
I really believe that if you reframe the challenges, it can make all the difference. I have a simple thought experiment to sort of showcase this. Let's say I gave you a test and it had instructions on it that you would carry out. And to do that, it had sort of buttons like this. And the instructions would say something like push button 3 for 5 seconds, and then push button 6 for 1 second, then push buttons 3 and 5 for 6 seconds, and so on. And unless you carried out the instructions on page 1 exactly, you couldn't see the other 32 pages of the test. How much would I have to pay you to take that test for an hour? Now suppose I changed the word test here to game, and I rotated this. And for the input device, I shrunk the buttons and moved them here. And I gave it a cool paint job. And maybe different button styles. And then instead of using words, I represented the tasks you needed to accomplish visually like this. Note the output is the exact same. You have to push these buttons in a very specific manner to move on to the next page, or level, as it were. Now picture it's 1986. How much would you pay me to take this test, just for an hour? If you have a very bad imagination, here's a hint to the right answer. I know, I was there.
The National Esports Association is working with influencers and educators on a new initiative. One, the Online Network for Education. This is a live streaming program that is designed to engage students.
And very soon, the teachers will be able to literally teleport themselves into this virtual world that I'm in right now and help me, guide me through this whole experiment.
We will meet the students where they're at, using gamification in the classroom with influencers from the NBA, the NFL, Broadway, Hollywood, and social media to inspire learning. Our students are not different than us. Let me ask you, would you rather write a poem for your English teacher or have a pop star talk with you about the inspirational song lyrics? Would you rather watch a PowerPoint presentation about the writing of our Constitution or have a Broadway star from Hamilton rap you through it? Which options would excite and engage you? And perhaps you could take a physical ed class with Michael Jordan to round out your day. I'm not saying that we replace live teaching with the internet. What I am saying is that together we can create a virtual global classroom where all can thrive. I also realize we have obstacles to overcome, the biggest being households in marginalized neighborhoods that do not have access to the internet. Also, families with more than one child in school that are having to share computers. Plus, some families don't have a parent home to help get their children into the programs. And these families may have an unemployed parent who have other struggles that they're dealing with. The world is not going to go back to normal anytime soon, and we need to do better. We need to say yes to being part of the change. And to quote Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. Sure, it's easy to talk about change. It's easy to point out all the problems there are in the world. I like to talk about solutions and implement action to create change. We need leaders that know how to invoke action to change the game, literally. And gamers do that every day. To me, esports is more than a game. It is a pathway to success for our digitized youth. In Rochester, New York, where I reside, we are fortunate to have the strong National Museum of Play, which also is a home to the Video Game Hall of Fame. When my children were young, we were fortunate enough to go there weekly. As a museum dedicated to play, there was inspiration all around, including a quote painted on the wall. It inspired me in parenting and in life. It goes like this: play is the foundation for learning, creativity, self-expression, and constructive problem solving.
The trick to learning more and having more success is finding the right way to frame the learning process. I'd like to tell you about a plumber I first met when I was 8 years old. He was Italian. When Super Mario Brothers came out, my friends and I became obsessed. Like, we wanted to get to the castle and rescue the beautiful Princess Peach from the evil Bowser. When it comes to games like this, no one ever picks up the controller for the first time, and then after jumping into a pit thinks, I'm so ashamed, that was such a failure, and they never want to try again, right? What really happens is they think, oh, I've got to remember, there's a pit right there. So I think next time I'm going to come out with a little more speed, I'm going to jump a little bit later. The focus and the obsession is about beating the game, not how dumb you might look if you get hit by a sliding green shell. And as a direct result of that attitude, of learning from but not being focused on the failures, we got really good. This is what I call the Super Mario effect, focusing on the princess and not the pits to stick with the task and to learn more. And this concept of life gamification is more than just like, have a positive attitude, right? Or never give up. Because those sort of imply you're having to endure against your true desire to quit. I feel like when you frame a challenge or a learning process in the way I'm describing, you actually want to do it.
Play is learning to a child, and it is organic learning. In essence, I have made play my life's work. But play can be serious. Hey, no one ever said the game of life was going to be easy. Pick your teammates well, practice, and be in it to win it. And tell the world, yes, I can. Thank you. Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all are having a terrific day wherever you are. I'm just pleased to be back to present and to talk with you and to learn about what you'd like to learn about and how I can help and inspire you wherever you are in this world. So thank you very much for joining me, and thank you, Level 2020, for actually having me back. I'm anxious to hear any questions that you all have and share. I hope I inspired you a little bit. I always get a little teary-eyed with that Microsoft commercial, and I've had the pleasure of working with them and helping to really, truly make gaming interactive and available to all people. And I'm really pleased to actually be joining you all today. So thank you very much for joining us and hearing what you have to say. David, do we have any questions? Well, if you don't have any questions for me yet, I just want to talk a little bit more about what Mark and Michael were saying. I think those two are brilliant. And one of the things that I've really, truly kind of embraced during this period of COVID is how can we actually engage our students in this time when we've gone to online learning. You see about it every day in the news that online learning isn't sustainable. That's simply not true. It's the fact that we just have to learn how we can actually educate and inspire our children. I always say, I have a senior in high school, and he's struggling right now, like a lot of people in this world, because they're not actually getting the education that they need and deserve. So really, what can we do? I said I have the coolest job on the planet Earth. I mean, I get to play with gamers and to lead and inspire. And that's pretty cool to be able to do. I did get a question that says, what do communities need to do to help schools with their esports work? I think one of the things is we have to remove barriers. We talked about that. In marginalized parts of the world, we actually have difficulty with access to the internet, but that's just the first of our difficulties. Just because you can get on the internet doesn't mean that we actually can get them to engage. So we have to think outside the box, and we have to use people like social media experts that actually can teach us how we can actually reach beyond just the platform, so that you actually feel like I'm talking to you and that I actually believe in what you're doing. It's not easy, but it's also not impossible. We use the internet every day, and students use it organically. So we need to look at how are they actually using the information, and then how can we inspire them to learn more? I have another question. How do schools incorporate esports into their school in terms of human capital? Well, that's a good question. I think you've got to look at who on your campus is the one that kind of is pushing the initiative. You got to look at your gamers. I deal with children in kindergarten all the way up through higher education, and they're brilliant. If you actually use them and actually start there and figure out what inspires them and listen and make them part of the program, it actually lowers the amount of human capital that you really need, and it actually starts what I call a movement. I've seen it happen on a daily basis. It says, my district is not allowing games in elementary middle schools. How have you managed to work with gaming and data privacy for younger students? Well, one of the most brilliant games, and I've talked about it over and over again, is Minecraft. Minecraft education is supported by most districts. So that is one game that you should start, and that is where you're looking at in terms of elementary and middle school. If we can actually start working and start that collaboration and that conversation, it will change the way that we actually use this in classroom settings. And if that's something you need help with, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can connect you with your Microsoft representative. And if you don't have Microsoft 365 in your school, let's talk about it and see what we can do that think outside the box. It says, how can we change learning gaming? Because some people will always be reluctant to game because people think it's not helpful. I love to tell this story, and if anybody knows me, I tell it way too often. Microsoft put the game Solitaire on every computer. That was not to waste time when we have nothing to do at our jobs. It was to teach us a new thing called the mouse. We use gaming every day in our lives. We've just switched it to online. We have to start looking outside the box and see how we actually are learning and use those skills so that we can actually then transpose them into other areas of our lives. It happens every day. And you can look at basketball, football, tennis, golf. I don't care what the sport is. It always has something that you can transfer into your daily life. And that's what I'm looking for when I look at people in the future is what are your problem solving skills and how do you work together as a team? It's the same thing in esports. Wow, these questions are coming so quick. I got off on a tangent. Can homeschoolers also get involved in esports? Absolutely. Anybody can get involved in esports. The important thing is you want to do is find that community that actually you feel part of. One of the things that we do at the National Esports Association is put down those barriers and make sure that anybody can be part of it. If you need help, that's what we're here for. Reach out to us, reach out to people in your community, because esports, as I said, the one thing about it is right now we're in a global pandemic, everything's shut down, but the one thing that isn't is the internet, and we need to use it to our benefit. Have you seen success Have you seen success with custom games or more using pre-built games like Mario or Minecraft? I'm going to say this, any game is helpful if you use it for the right reason. I like to look at, I can take any game and show you the value of the educational component of it and what you're going to get out of it. That's what I think is so intriguing about the whole concept of gaming and gamification of the classroom. And that's what I said. You could take even the first game that we ever had, I think it was called Pong, right? We're playing just tennis back and forth. It's eye-hand coordination. It's actually overcoming obstacles and it's sticking with it so you get better at it. How can we begin to build an esports program at schools if one doesn't exist? The number one thing I say with all schools is start with your students. If you start there and you start to really see what inspires them, Minecraft is one of those games that can actually help a child from kindergarten all the way up through higher education. But there are other games that you can use and use the resources that are already there and build upon what already has traction. Once you do that, then you can start reaching out to other organizations and other people in your areas. In order to make esports truly a collegiate sporting game like everything else, we need mass contribution, which means that we're all playing at a level playing field. And we start to use it the same way we use every other sport. COVID has forced us into a situation where we are forced on the internet. We have to look at that as an opportunity. And the opportunity means that we actually can rethink the way we look at esports, and now we can interact it in our community and in our schools. How do you convince districts to fund programs? That is always a challenge, and I know that budgets are an issue. Funding gets cut all around, but what we have to do is look at what can we do. The first thing you can do is look at what is the lowest point of entry, and then how can we actually build upon it? You're not going to start with $1 million esports program, just like you wouldn't do in football, but you know what? You got to start somewhere. So if you start with what you have and build upon it and start to reach out to people in your community, you'll be surprised where the funding can come from, and that's something we can help you with. Oh wait, you're going so fast here. Minecraft education has severe limitations. Students from different schools cannot connect to one host. Does the NEA have a way around? As I said, we're all about solving problems. So in order to do that, there's ways around everything. I look at it as what can you do, and then what do you want to do? So if that's something you want to create your own servers and you want to actually help your school get beyond the limitations, that is always something that you can overcome. And like I said, anything is possible. It's the internet. What is the first step to developing an esports program in middle and high school? As I said, deciding you want to do it, and then secondly, making it happen. I know that sounds easy or hard, depending upon the way you look at it, but the real truth of the matter is you can do anything you want. It doesn't have to start big. You just have to start somewhere. If you start somewhere, it will lead you to the next destination. How do we guarantee investments will not only be viable today, but for years to come? I like to say you can guarantee anything, but actually in life, you know you can't. But what you can do is look at the results from previous experience and see how they've actually been impactful. I've had the pleasure of being in esports basically before esports was even a word. It was before we even decided how to spell it. I've seen directly the impact that gaming has upon students. And I didn't think I was going to cry. It is unbelievable. And what you have to do is meet this child where they're at. We live in an age where our youth is digitized. We handed them iPads and iPhones and things to actually entertain them. And now we wonder why that's where they're looking to for their entertainment. What we need to do is actually transfer those skills and actually help them develop a platform for success. What's the next question? It says, what are steps to gamifying a classroom? I think Mark and Michael actually talk about it even at a higher level than I do. I always say the first step to anything is gathering information and then also seeing what inspires your classroom. You can start easy. Think about it when we were actually in school and somebody just put up the game Jeopardy on a board and it wasn't even digitized, right? It got your students engaged. There are different ways that you can do that. It's just making a decision and seeing what you can do to make it go. How can it drive revenue for a college with no current esports? Oh my goodness, that is a great question. Colleges are offering scholarships, and this is one way to retain students and actually get students. One of the first places I went to when we went on tour was a college in Elmira, and I had a student who was actually going to transfer out, and he went up to the president and he said, because you're investing in an esports program, I'm staying. That shows the retention, and it shows what students are looking for. Over 80% of people in the world today consider themselves a gamer. Even my mother-in-law, who is 83 years old, loves to play solitaire on her computer. It's amazing. And it reaches a different demographic, and it actually helps engage you in a way that you didn't actually think about before. Since curricula are determined by government, what is your experience on their reaction and thoughts? That is a really good question. I like to think that they're on the verge of change, but change takes time. And it really has to be, how do we as a community leader and how do we in our schools actually start to create that movement to make change happen? I think Michael said it better than I've ever seen. You can't just take a book and make it an ebook and think that you're actually changing the way that we're teaching. It doesn't work like that. You have to look at what are we doing in social media and what actually are those people that we turn to for information and why do they engage us in an impactful way? Once you do that, you can start that conversation. I say that we're in the middle of a movement. Education right now is in jeopardy. We are having one of the most difficult times. Parents, students, teachers, educators, we're all struggling in this new world, but we're learning together. And the one thing that I always turn to is what gamers have been doing for years. And how can we take what they've done and then how do we actually start to move that needle so that we're getting to the point where we're actually now making learning fun and engaging and organic the way it should be. And I hope that the government and educators actually believe that and help us reach those goals. Can gaming be used in the means of teaching social emotional lessons? Has this been successful? And can you recommend any resources? I think gaming, I could talk hours about the social emotional lessons. When you look at sports in general, if you have a basketball team, only 16 people can be on that team. It's a very limited amount of people. A football team, you can get a lot more. But with esports, the number is limitless. And the things that you can learn as a result of being part of a team, they can transfer any type of game. And you start to feel part of a community. You start to have responsibilities and you start to understand what it means to be part of something. And I think that those things are priceless. And I think they're very important. What is your answer to the problem of instant gratification and addiction when it comes to online learning and gaming? I think this is something we really need to focus on. We are in an age where instant gratification happens every day. I mean, look at Amazon. You used to have to wait 2 days. Now you can have it delivered within 2 hours in certain areas. That's not always a bad thing if we're actually looking at it for what is the way that society is working currently. But the real truth of the matter is we need to look at gaming and not use it as a punishment and a takeaway clause, but actually, how do you use gaming in an impactful learning way? I mentioned my son earlier that he's been a gamer since he was in kindergarten. And I always looked at what is the outcome that I'm looking to gain from this and how can I actually help and inspire him? And one of the most important things that I've noticed as a parent is I got to learn the game in order to actually help him or her get the most out of it and then actually use it for the purpose that I see its benefits are. Does the NEA have an affiliate in Canada? What resources are available in Canada to help education facilities in the same way you are? I would love to be in Canada. As I did mention, we have had a global impact. And I work with students in Australia, in Canada, and in additional areas in the world. That's what's so amazing about being online and being able to really truly reach a community and to really break down those barriers. We have a saying at the National Esports Association that we want to create an online community without barriers, which that means inclusive, diverse, and without borders. So if I can help in any way that I can, that's what we're here for. And we're really truly in the middle of a movement. And I can't thank you all enough for being part of it and helping to change the way that we educate our youth and bring gamification to the classroom in a way that is impactful so that we have the future leaders of tomorrow that we so desperately need. I truly appreciate your time, your energy, your thoughts, and reach out to me and the National Esports Association with any questions. It's always a pleasure to be part of this, and I truly thank you.